Another round of labor talks as a trade union Congress seeks to resolve issues facing hundreds of workers.
A senior government official is funeralized. I'm Sia Scarley, and we'll have that story coming up in the Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition.
And the Bahamas hosting the first collegiate games outside of America. So don't you move. The Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition starts now.
Now in HD. Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Good evening, everyone. I'm LaDon Davis, and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight Weekend Edition. Thanks so much for tuning in. Topping the news, government continued talks today with the Trade Union Congress and its affiliates. Labor officials were at the table with the TUC for several hours on Friday, but that meeting was cut short after they learned that some workers did not report to work. Labor officials were firm in their position and only resumed talks this morning after they were assured by TUC President Obi Ferguson that workers were back on the job and that they will follow a court order barring further strike action. Now, early this morning, discussions resumed with the Minister of Labor and other officials, and according to Deputy Director of Labor Robert Ferguson, the talks went pretty well.
The meeting was very productive. The TUC was able to identify a number of concerns raised by affiliates of the Congress. The government was able to identify some solutions to a number of those concerns. There were some tentative agreements made, and those agreements obviously will have to be reviewed and have to be signed on. We will resume additional discussions early next week with the view to having all of the concerns that the government can address and those that we are unable to address. We want to see if we can identify a roadmap whereby they can be addressed.
Now, another round of talks between the TUC and the government is set for this coming Monday morning. Meantime, the education campaign continues and Bahamians are being encouraged to cast their votes in the upcoming gender equality referendum. Retired Justice Ruby Nottage is spearheading the educational initiative by the Constitutional Commission, and she says if Bahamians miss this opportunity to remove the inequities in the Constitution, it may be a long time before any government attempts to address the disparities again. The last time a similar attempt was made was back in 2002. According to Mrs. Nottage, the issues are very important, and although some may be turned away from voting because of what happened following the gaming referendum, both events differ because the previous referendum was not constitutional.
In a constitutional referendum, it is absolutely binding. Your vote counts. Not only does it count, it must be respected by the government. They cannot turn around and say we won't pay attention to that. It is a part of the legislative process. We, the citizens, become a part of that process. One person could mean the difference between the resolution or the amendment being effective and changing the Constitution or not. You may make that difference.
Now, Mrs. Nottage also noted that the issues are so fundamental that the public education campaign must continue to allow Bahamians to get an understanding of the bills. She says the Constitutional Review Commission has also been busy meeting with the public on Sundays to provide clarity, and Nottage says people are getting the message.
We feel that it needs more presence and a more saturation of the Bahamian public, because I honestly do admit there are sections of our public who do not yet even know about these issues. But that saturation will take place, and when it takes place, I personally would like to say and stand before you, I want you to come back and see me. I'd like to be able to say that every person who can vote knows the issue and can explain why they would vote one way or the other.
A 19-year-old man is the victim of another traffic fatality in Eleuthera. Police say sometime around 12:30 this morning, the young man was driving along the highway in James Cistern when he apparently lost control of his vehicle and crashed into a wall, pinning him inside. Eleuthera Fire and Rescue had to assist in removing the traffic victim from the vehicle. He was later pronounced dead by a local doctor. Police also need your help this evening as they try to solve an overnight shooting incident in the Kingston Street area of Camp Road. Police say sometime around 7:30, a 23-year-old man of Carib Road was standing outside a local bar when a man unknown to him shot him in the buttocks. He was transported to the Princess Margaret Hospital for medical treatment. A woman was also stabbed by her fiancé multiple times about the body last night. Police need your help solving this latest incident in the Ghana Circle off Elizabeth Estates. Now, according to reports, sometime around 8 p.m., a 56-year-old female and her male friend got into a verbal altercation when other people joined in. Police say the argument escalated quickly to physical and resulted in 3 people being stabbed multiple times about the body. The female was reportedly stabbed by her fiancé, as well as a 23-year-old female and a male who left the area in a vehicle. The injuries are non-life-threatening. A senior government official who was gunned down a few weeks ago was laid to rest today. Former Deputy Director of the Bahamas Information Services and Press Secretary Pt.1 Mackey was fondly remembered by the nation's leader, who once again underscored his government's commitment to fighting crime. Here's Sept.
It was a solemn day for family, friends, colleagues, and government officials as they mourned the loss of one of their own. Pt.1, who became the Deputy Director of Bahamas Information Services in 2012, was described by the Director General of BIS, Luther Smith, as very diligent in his work.
He was assiduous in completing his assignments. He was never late on anything which he had been asked to do, and he was always very much a professional.
Mackey's shooting death came as a shock to many. Speaking at his funeral this afternoon, Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie stressed that both a time and life are precious and the only thing that is certain is death. He went on to speak about his government's commitment to combating the scourge of crime.
Pt.1 fought an election on the basis that we would do all in our powers to control this menace, and he became a victim of it. To my colleagues, as we reflect on his life and the meaning of it, of his commitment to the cause of which I have spoken, we owe it to him, as we do to all of the other victims in this country, to rededicate ourselves and redouble our efforts.
Pulling no punches in his eulogy, Apostle Leon Wallace says crime is not a political issue, but a national one.
Somebody is going to pay for what is going on in this country. Somebody is going to pay for the death that is on our streets. Somebody's going to pay for you not being safe in your own home while you are trying to make it a political issue. When you don't get shoot APLP, it ain't half of them is you dead. And so we must now come together as a people. And the church, from Zion Apostle, we got to stop playing politics.
So far, 2 males were arraigned in the court for the shooting death of Pt.1 Mackey, killed on August 25th. Sept. ZNS Network News.
And still to come in the Bahamas tonight, the fight continues to reduce breast cancer among Bahamian women. That story and more straight ahead.